Hi, guys. Welcome. My name is Jennifer, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to connect with you all today just in talking about raising money for your adoption. And being in the New England area, this was something that everybody said, oh, you really can't do that. You know, that kind of stuff's kind of frowned on in the area and so on. Growing up in Connecticut, I didn't hear a whole lot about people doing fundraising for adoption and things like that. And so when we decided to pursue the adoption route in the last year, I was really concerned that that was a large chunk of money, and how are we going to kind of bridge the gap and, not clean out, every bit of savings that we had and all of those things to be able to do this. And so I just want to go ahead and take a couple of minutes today and share some of the things that we learned along the way. And I think the biggest thing that I want to start off by saying is it is not impossible. I know as we went through the process and as we began the process, it was very daunting. I kind of wanted to keep putting it off because it seemed like after all of the paperwork that we had already been through in reference to, just going through the home study and all of those different things, it was just going to be more paperwork, especially because we're going to focus today a lot on grants. And I'm going to mention a couple of different things as far as fundraising as well. But that was very daunting to me because we'd already come through such a slew of paperwork that more paperwork just sounded like a little bit much. But it is possible, and it doesn't have to be just somebody in some other state like maybe you've heard. It can be you, and it can be your family. And I think the key is working with the grants or the fundraisers that are the right type for you and your friend and family connection or your community connection. And so one of the things I want to chat about quick is checking out all of your options. And one thing that literally was life-altering for us, and it all started pretty much with a single website that I actually found. I mean, it was a God thing. Nobody recommended it to me. I literally found it online, and then later I had friends that said, oh, yeah, we got a lot of information off that site as well. And it was www.fundyouradoption.tv, as in Tom Victor, www.fundyouradoption.tv. And when you check out this website, the thing that's so amazing about this is a couple that literally raised between grants and different things pretty much the entire amount of their adoption. And this is not specific to any religious affiliation or anything like that. And the thing that I was so impressed with is they've got different tabs set up for fundraising, for grants, for loans, for, different financial assistance, going over some ideas for the tax credit and budgeting. Do you have employer or military benefits? And just really kind of thinking outside the box for fundraising ideas. And I'll share one of the ones that we're doing that was suggested by them. And also just connecting you with great resources, blogs, and you can contact them directly too. So fundyouradoption.tv was really what got us started, and it made our process a whole lot easier because there's actually a section on there where you can just put in your email and you actually get what they call a grant matrix. And what it is it's an Excel spreadsheet that basically lists off pretty much any grant that is known, we've got multiple types of grants we're going to talk about too, because a lot of people, when they start this process, don't realize there's different types. So we'll talk about that because we did have the opportunity to pick up a couple of different ones. There's also loans that are available to adoptive families, and some of them are even interest-free. So even if you maybe can't fundraise or get grants for everything, there's always options for loans too. So the Your Adoption Matrix helped us tremendously because we took the advice of other people who had done this and we printed it out. It was several pages, I would say maybe 7 or 8, in spreadsheet form. And one of the things that was so great about this was we were able to go through, and they've got this very well done, going through each organization. I would recommend saving a copy to your computer too, because you can go ahead and then click on the organizations and get direct links to their websites so that you can start with your applications and so on. But it actually went through some important things that you're going to want to make sure that you check out each time that you're thinking about doing a grant or a loan. So let's talk real quick about the different types, especially of grants, because there is a pretty dramatic difference with the two that are offered. The first kind is a direct grant, and that literally means that when you apply for this grant, It's granted directly to you in the form, of a check. And I don't know of really any of these that it comes directly to you personally, but it goes basically to your adoption agency. So, for instance, we're using an agency for our actual placement, most likely. That's in Utah, and we're on their wait list. And so one of the grants that we got, that's where they sent the check to. It was addressed to them. Now, the nice thing is that money goes with us wherever we go. So if we were to adopt through our Connecticut agency, then, that agency would send that money back because it's our money. But so that's a direct grant. It's literally they write the check and it's done. Now, there's other ones. And sometimes it depends on the organization as well. Sometimes you'll have some that they'll go ahead and issue a direct grant, but maybe they don't send it right away. Maybe you contact them and let them know at the time of your match or whatever. It's still your money. It's just a matter of when in the process they go ahead and cut the check. Then there's something else that's called a matching grant. And sometimes people discount this, but this is huge. Because when you are trying to do any sort of raising money among friends, family, your community, whatever, people like to know that their dollar goes further. So that's why we found that a matching grant was incredibly beneficial for us. And here's how this works. This is where you would go ahead, fill out your grant application, and instead of them writing you a check for, let's say, $2,500 or $3,500 or whatever their matching amount is, what they do is they approve you to earn that matching grant. And the stipulation is you raise the money and then they match it. So in our case, one of the grants that we received was for $3,500. They didn't write us a check for $3,500. What we did was we actually raised $3,500, and then they went ahead and matched that with a check for $3,500. So we actually, in the process of raising $3,500, raised double that. And it was important for us to be able to tell people, hey, if you donate $25, this is going to be matched. It's like you gave $50. And letting people know where we were at trying to reach our goal, because it really gave people a sense of, really feeling like they were contributing because they knew that their dollar was going further. And in fact, the coolest thing about our matching grant, and this I know doesn't always happen to everybody, but we had put the information out there. And we had a couple of people who had gone ahead and, written checks, for $100, $25, different things. And we actually had somebody that saw that and wrote a check for $5,000, believe it or not, which was totally unexpected and awesome. And I know that doesn't happen for everybody, but that was a huge deal for us. Somebody saw that opportunity and went ahead and did it. So anyways, matching grants are awesome too, and I think a lot of people sometimes discount those, but they're usually pretty readily available, and they're usually not as hard to get, I don't think, necessarily as a direct grant, because sometimes there's more of those to go around. And, maybe they're not as much as some of the direct grants, but every penny counts when you're doing any sort of fundraising. So those are some of the differences. There's also loans that are available. There's different banks that you can go through that offer low interest rates or no interest rates, depending on religious affiliation. I know with my husband being a pastor, there were some that were specific, for certain religious affiliations where they even offered better loans or grants. So you kind of want to be specific to what's going to be best for you and for your family situation. Going back to the grant matrix, now that we know some of the different types, I just want to speak real quick to some of the things that you find on the grant matrix and why this is so helpful and why it's definitely a must that you want to print this out and really mark it up. As you go through the matrix, you're going to find that they're going to talk about, right in your spreadsheet, it's spelled out very simply, what type is this? Is this some sort of a fundraising or matching grant? Is this a direct grant? Is this a loan? That's important because you want to be able to know, what type and if that's going to be suitable for you. Is there an application fee? The majority of the ones we did not have any sort of application fees or application requirements, except for one that we did, which I actually regret that we did, and I'll explain why in a minute. What's their average award range? Some of them, they are varied or unspecified. Some of them will tell you, that we go ahead and our average award is, $2,000 to $15,000. So they give you a wide range. Some of them will say, our max is a $500 grant. So you can kind of go through and say, okay, what are the most important ones? What are the most applicable ones? Cross off ones you're not interested in. circle or highlight ones you want to get more details or want to consider applying for. There's other things that you want to keep in mind too. Maximum household income usually isn't an issue, but every once in a while that does pop up. So if you have a situation where maybe between you and your spouse or whatever you're making a certain amount of money, that might not be one that's applicable, so you would want to not waste your time filling out all the paperwork for that. You want to know what all of the requirements and so on are before you get started. Sometimes there's marital status. Do you have to be married? Do they care if you're single? So that's something to check out as well. Sometimes there are religious affiliations attached to those, and that'll make a difference. So is this something that is applicable to everyone? Is this something that's just a Christian organization? Is it unspecified? So you can go ahead and you can go specific to that as well. There's types of adoption too. Are you working with domestic adoption or international adoption? Sometimes you'll even see that they're specific to certain countries. Certain ones are just for China, or maybe they're for special needs or older groups or specific to sibling groups. There's actually several that you'll come across that are specific to fertility treatments. Or adopting older children. So you want to go ahead and, again, make sure as you're going across that matrix that you're making sure that you're matching up with any criteria all the way across the board. Some are also state-specific. The majority are not, but you will find some where they'll tell you, yes, this is state-specific. You have to reside in Indiana, Tennessee, Missouri, whatever. So you want to make sure that you're checking that as well. Another big thing, and this is where I think a lot of people kind of mess up when they're doing their grants or their loans, is knowing when to apply, how the applications need to be received, and what the deadlines are. So these are three of the most crucial things I feel like as you're going through the process you're going to run into, because when to apply, the majority of these will tell you, okay, you need to at least have an approved home study. But the good thing is there are some of these that you can go ahead and apply for immediately. So, you don't even necessarily have to have a home study approved. So you can start this early in your process. The other thing that you'll find, too, is some of them will say at your match, or there's a few of them that will say you do have to be, not only received your referral, but you have to be within 45 days of placement or things like that. You don't want to get overwhelmed with that because the majority of these are pretty much after you've got an approved home study. But just, again, watching those specifics, because if you take all of the time to fill out all of the paperwork and then you mess up on something like that and, you don't even meet that certain criteria, it's not even going to be considered because you're not obviously lining up with what they've specified. And then the other thing is how often are the applications, reviewed too. So, and we'll talk about that in 1 second, and I'll kind of give you a little cheat idea that I got from some friends with this. So the deadlines are important as well. Some of these are rolling, meaning that they don't give specific deadlines. You can send them in whenever. They're constantly looking at them. And, typically within a 30, 60, 90-day window, they're responding. Most of them respond and let you know either way. Some of them will say, you know what, we only let people know who've earned a grant just because of the influx that they get in applications. But some of them are very specific. They'll tell you that they receive and review applications maybe only once a year, and they'll tell you what that deadline date is. So if they tell you that the deadline date is October 31st and you're in April, you would want to go ahead and hold off on that application until later. Then you're going to have some that are reviewed quarterly. And if you go to their website, they'll let you know that. There are some that are twice per year. And so you want to just go ahead and check out what are their actual application review dates and make sure that you're sending them in within the right timing as well. So those are some of the things that are really important. And the last thing I think that's very important too is to know what kind of expenses this particular grant, loan, or matching grant does cover. A lot of them cover all your qualified adoption expenses. Some of them only cover agency fees. Some of them are only paid, to the agency, and they won't reimburse you toward any of your home study costs and things like that. So, again, it might sound like it's overwhelming, but it's all spelled out so clearly in the matrix that literally with a pen and a highlighter in about 15, 20 minutes of your time, you can go ahead and read through these, mark off any that are not applicable to you and your situation, and highlight or circle those that are going to be most likely to fit your situation well. And then once you're done with that, what we chose to do, and this was some of the best advice that I got from a friend of mine, is she said that she made a list by deadline. So she kind of went through and figured out, okay, these are the ones that we're the most interested in, so let's go ahead and figure when do they need to be in by. So she just, starting with where she was at in the year, she went ahead and just took a piece of paper, noted down what the deadlines were for those. Maybe some were April, maybe some were July, some weren't to the end of the year. She listed them in order, and then the best advice I got, and this worked so well for us, is we actually took and we went to each one of those websites, just verified the details, because Fund Your Adoption will tell you sometimes these things change so quickly that no matter how hard they try, it is tough to keep them up to date fully. And we did find that it was very accurate, but there are times when maybe something gets updated and they don't know it. So you definitely want to go ahead and go directly to the website of the organization that you're looking to apply with, and then follow whatever deadlines they've got listed there, and just double-check your criteria before you do anything. So taking our friend's advice, we went ahead and we printed off the applications for the ones we definitely wanted to send in. And we kind of decided to do it in two different waves, because we had some that maybe they were done accepting applications for that time in the year. We sent in the majority of ours in the fall of last year, and so we decided to hold off on some of the other ones that we knew were available more often and things like that. There were a couple of big ones we wanted to make sure that we got in on, and so we chose to do those first. And then because of time constraints, and it does take, some time to do these and so on, we wanted to go ahead and we figured we would do them in two waves, which was easiest for our family. And so we did the ones that we felt were the most important and would maybe yield the best results. And then we went ahead and made our secondary list of ones that we would send out more into this year, and depending, of course, on how much we raised and so on. So one of the things that we did is when we printed out each application, we took a colored sticky note, and on the front of it, we actually put the deadline date that needed to be sent in by, and some of them will tell you, okay, it needs to be postmarked by this date, or it needs to be received by this date. They're also very specific on how they need to be received, and I alluded to that before. So is this one that they only accept by mail? Is this one you can scan and email in? Is this one you can fill out online? Those are all things that are important to know. And again, you can either make it overwhelming, or you can just make yourself some little notes and just literally take and do them one at a time. And then it really breaks it down, and it's not bad at all. One of the other things that we found very helpful was to put on that little sticky note what we needed in order to satisfy the requirements of that loan, grant, or whatever we were applying for. So the majority of them all want the same information. So, maybe they want, the first 2 pages of your tax return for the last year or the last 2 years. Maybe they want a letter from your agency stating that you're an active waiting family. Maybe they want, and pretty much all of them want, some sort of a adoption budget. How much does everything cost, and can that be verified by your, agency? A lot of them want some of the same things that you filled out in a typical home study application. So they're looking for what's your, family budget? What kind of funding do you already have? Because obviously if they're going to be considering giving you even a small amount of money, they want to know what money you have on hand for your actual adoption. So one of the things that we found with doing these is then we just put them in order of date. And this doesn't have to be a huge process. In an hour, you can probably do this entire process. And then basically you can just check those deadlines. Okay, there's one due at the end of April. Let me go ahead and get that one done. Oh, this one's due at the end of June. Let me grab that one and do that. The best advice that we got as well was to save all of your information on the computer, so it's a very simple copy and paste and those sort of things. There's no reason to have to keep writing out maybe your adoption story or what drew you to adoption and some of these things that you need to share with each one of these grants or loans. If you do it once, it's very easy to just copy and paste or write those things because you've already done the work once, and that will save you a tremendous amount of time in the long run. And also, I'll speak to this because we were successful with the grants that we did choose. And so one of the things that I know that all of these places told us was that we were very transparent and we really shared our story. And so a lot of times people will just fill them out and say, okay, I'll basically put, the bare minimum that I can and just be done. And what we chose to do is we really wanted people to know why we were so passionate about adopting a child and what had brought our family to this point. And even if they didn't ask for a picture, we shared a picture of our family and things like that because we wanted them to know we aren't just another name on a paper. We're real people, and here's our real story. And because we shared and we're so transparent with that, we actually got 3 out of the 4 grants that we applied for. And we've had a couple of people ask us, well, if you had so much success with the ones that you did, are you going to apply for more? Why didn't you apply for more? And just from the sense purely, and I know maybe everybody is not like this, but just from the sense purely that we absolutely prayed about each one of these we were going to do because they did take some time and so on. And we definitely had a very good feeling about the ones that we put in. We felt very strongly that those were the ones we needed to do. And God blessed it tremendously. And so the grants that we did receive one. And these specific ones were religious affiliation, just Christian affiliation. They were the ones we chose because they were the most conducive to our situation and meeting the criteria. We did receive a $10,000 direct grant from the JSC Foundation, and they did mail a check directly to our agency. We did receive a $3,500 matching grant from LifeSong, and we love them as well. They've been a huge help. And we did get a $3,000 direct grant from Show Hope. And so that equated out to, $16,500, which, that could be half of your adoption expenses, depending on, what they are in total. The other thing that we found that was very helpful with going through this process as well is, like I said, we do still have our secondary list of ones that we will be applying for, just depending on when we receive our match and with some of the other fundraising that we did, what we're lacking in the end and so on. And so there were several other ones that, we definitely had other friends that had applied for and felt very good about. Gift of adoption, families outreach, the ABBA Fund, which does interest-free loans, depending on your criteria, the One Chance Foundation, which if you're within $5,000 of full funding, that's when you would apply for that one. So again, we chose ones that were specific to criteria that we met. Maybe those wouldn't work for everybody, but those were the ones that we chose. Now, that was basically about half of the money that we raised. Now, the other part that we raised, we've done through one fundraiser, and we're actually getting ready to launch another. So the fundraiser that we did was called the Both Hands fundraiser. This was through LifeSong. You do need to get approved for it, but it's not to say that if you didn't get approved through them, you couldn't do something similar yourself. What this one did have a religious affiliation of Christian as well, but basically the way that this concept worked, and I'll explain it as simply as I can, and then I can also go ahead and send the link to our specific, they gave us a website to do our fundraising on for this project, and that was all free. There's no expenses with this at all, and so you can kind of see our video of what we did and so on. But the concept was this, is it uses James 1:27 out of the Bible, speaking to taking care of widows and the fatherless or the orphan. And so basically the concept is that we did go ahead and connect with someone that we know that had lost her husband, so she was a local widow in our community, and she was actually trying to get her house ready to sell. With her husband passing away, it left her in a situation where financially she could not keep their home, nor could she maintain it, so she needed a lot of stuff done. So what we did was we got together a team of people, actually 2 teams of people, about 15 on each team, about 30 people total, I would say. And we picked 2 different work days. And what we did was we went ahead and we had each one of those people, as well as ourselves, we all mailed out letters. And we had pre-done the letters so that people could easily send them, anyone on our service teams. And just telling people, okay, we're going to go work for this widow. And the materials and things for her house are covered, and I'll get to that in a minute. But would you sponsor us to go and work for the day? And maybe you've heard of these sort of things, with kids going to summer camps or raising money for school and things like that. It's the same concept, just grown up. people, friends and family of our service teams and also of ours were just sponsoring us to go and help this widow. Now, the cool thing is all of the money that was raised went toward the adoption. So therefore, there is the part about caring for the orphans and the fatherless, and then we were helping the widow at the same time because she was getting all of this work done for free as we went and served her. Really cool concept, ends up helping more than just you. And the neat thing about this was, with going specifically and getting approved through Lifesong for this particular fundraiser, what happened was they're a nonprofit agency organization. So we were able to then go ahead and take paperwork that we had and go to local places like Home Depot and the hardware store and even different local places that were restaurants and so on. And they were able to donate gift cards, and they were able to donate materials so that all of the work on the widow's house we were able to get paid for or deeply discounted. And so it was a really good opportunity because, again, all of the funds that we raised, we were able to go ahead and those go right toward the adoption, but then the widow also got things taken care of as well. So, again, not to say that you couldn't tweak that and do something like that yourself. If you didn't get approved for the Both Hands fundraiser, since they only approve a certain amount each year, but at the same time, it was a really cool opportunity, and it did bless that widow tremendously. And like I said, I'm more than happy to send over the website link, and you can see the video of what we were able to accomplish in the 2 days that we went and worked for her. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer those at the end. That raised a significant amount of money for us, especially because with going with the nonprofit organization like Both Hands, and there's multiple organizations that you could go through, maybe not for that project, but where you could set something up to where you can accept people donating credit card, via credit card and also through PayPal with very little or minimum fees. And fundyouradoption.tv does give some suggestions for that as well. We were just fortunate enough that with the Both Hands fundraiser, they already had all of that in a website for us covered. But we were actually able to raise $10,428, and it's still going. We had somebody out of the blue donate $300 the other week and $1,000 the week before, and it's crazy. And I would say I think that was with about an average of 50 people, I believe, have donated to that. So it was really awesome. I think one of the things that makes that very successful as well is it's not just you as a family sending out letters to your friends and family. It was the fact that we had so many of our other friends that were coming and working on this project and sending out letters to their friends and family. So there were so many people that we didn't even know that actually gave to our adoption fund, and we may never meet them or anything like that. But it was a really cool opportunity, and it gave multiple people chances to give. And, even $25 here or $50 here really does add up. The large donations are not usually the ones that you receive. It's all the $25 and $50 and even the $10 and $15 ones that really, in the end, make the biggest difference. And then the last fundraiser that we chose to do, and we did live in the Ohio area. I just want to say this real quick. We did live in the Ohio area for about 6 years. We've had many, many friends and family adopt while we lived there in that 6 years, both domestically and internationally they adopted. And one of the things that was very difficult for us when we moved back to Connecticut in the last 2 years and began our adoption process last year was, when I grew up here, I knew that those things, from my experience, I didn't feel that they were as well received. Doing a new fundraiser every week and things like that, like maybe we had done when we were in that Midwestern culture. So we wanted to try to find things that, even people in the community and different things were willing to participate in, but it didn't just seem like another fundraiser, if that makes sense. So you have to, go with what works for your crowd and works for your area. I know lots of people that have done, the spaghetti dinners and the T-shirts and, selling things and so on like that. The one that we found, and we've gotten a lot of really good feedback, we actually have people, believe it or not, that are waiting for this one. It's called a puzzle fundraiser, and this one you can raise as little or as much as you want with. And we're choosing to launch this one when we receive our match, and I'll explain a little bit more as to why we've chosen to wait in just a second. But basically the concept with a puzzle fundraiser, and you can do it a couple of different ways, you can get a pre-done, literally a puzzle, or you can go ahead and you can create one, which is what we opted to do. Places like Shutterfly, or you can easily Google and find places you can make custom puzzles fairly inexpensively, especially since a lot of times there's different coupons and promo codes available. And you can pick how many pieces you want your puzzle to be, and you can download a picture and decide what you want the front of your puzzle to look like. We actually chose the Adoption Creed, which you can Google. It's really awesome. And so we chose to put that on there. We did a color scheme that would match the baby's nursery. I want to say with a discount, we got a 252-piece puzzle from Shutterfly for under $20 when they did a promo. And basically the concept is you choose how much you want each puzzle piece to be valued at. Some people make their puzzle pieces more expensive so they can raise more money. Some people choose larger puzzles, again, so they can raise more money. Some people just kind of do a middle of the road, because the cheaper that the puzzle pieces are, the more opportunity that you have to raise more funds sometimes. So in our situation, Shutterfly had available just a little over 250 pieces. We decided to offer them for $10 a piece, and basically you're not giving people the puzzle pieces. You're actually having people basically sponsor a puzzle piece. So you can throw it out there on social media. You can let friends and family know. You could also go ahead and make up some really cute little postcards and let people know how it works as well. So maybe some of your friends and family could bring them to coworkers or so on. Think of how many times people come and ask you for, Girl Scout cookies, or the kids are selling something for school. Same concept. So you could have some of your friends and family helping you with this one as well. But the concept is you're going to go ahead and let people know that you're raising money for the adoption, and they can sponsor as many puzzle pieces as they want for X amount of dollars each. In our case, like I said, $10 per piece. So we've had people already tell us, as soon as they're ready to go, they want to buy 10 pieces. And so they'll go ahead and they'll provide the funds for that, however you choose to collect the money, and then you would go ahead and you would write their name on the back of each piece of the puzzle that they chose to sponsor. So you're keeping all the puzzle pieces yourself. And you could really utilize social media to your advantage with this one, because you could show pictures as you're putting the pieces together so people can see how you're coming along the way. I've known people who did this with a 1,000-piece puzzle and go ahead and sell the pieces, and maybe they sold them for $5 each, so people would buy more or so on. So you can kind of do what works for you in your situation. But this is an easy one, and I know a lot of people who've done this, and it's been well received. And like I said, we actually have a lineup of people, friends and family, that are excited, because what they love about this is you put this in a double-sided frame so that you can see through both sides. You put, obviously, the pretty picture side that you chose the picture for facing out. You hang it in the baby's nursery. But on the reverse, when you flip it over, you also have glass so that you can see all the names written on each of those puzzle pieces of everyone who helped bring that baby home. I'm going to cry just talking about it. But we've had so many people who are just so excited about this one. The reason why we personally chose to go ahead and wait till we received our match is because we wanted to kind of merge this in with something else. We went ahead and we had sent out, when we did our Both Hands fundraiser, one of the things that we did, and I would encourage any family to do this, is we sent out kind of a little newsletter to friends and family, not saying, hey, pay for this adoption, but letting them know what we were doing. And so we actually took a picture, much like you would maybe a maternity picture, but we took a picture of our family. We wrote on a chalkboard, that we were waiting, for our adoption. We put our 2 little girls in the picture, put a nice family picture out there, and then went ahead and kind of shared our story, just like we did with the grants, but even more personal, because these were our friends, these were our family, and we sent that to basically anyone that we would send a birth announcement to. And so we sent that out, and then we just let people know, hey, if you'd like to be a part of this in any way and helping bring this baby home, here's how. So the letter was not about raising the funds. The letter was about sharing what we were so excited about and that we were adding to our family through adoption, and letting people know so they could pray for us and we could keep them informed, and so on. So basically, what we're doing with the puzzle fundraiser and why we chose to wait for a match is because we are actually using a different company that I've used for my business for years called Vistaprint. It's V as in Victor, ISTA, print.com. Vistaprint.com actually offers all sorts of very, very well done and beautiful quality postcards that you can design yourself and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on there once we have a match and we know when our baby is coming and different things like that, maybe if, we've decided on a name or whatever the situation, then we'll go ahead and send out that postcard with a picture of what the puzzle will look like, explain very briefly, how that works, and that we're excited to finally be bringing our baby home. And then we'll also let people know, if you would like to go ahead and take some of these postcards to friends and family, like we talked about, or coworkers and so on. If you collect any money, please let us know. And it's done in such a way, and we've talked to a lot of people that have said these two ways that we did it, they felt really good about it because they really felt like they were helping, but they didn't feel like they were being badgered, if that makes sense, because sometimes that's one of the worries with fundraising, that, you feel on your end, but then also other people feel on their end. So we tried to be very specific about how we chose to do it, and you have to do what works for you and, of course, your situation. So those have been some of the ones that have been successful for us. And again, there's, you can definitely think outside the box. That's why we chose the puzzle fundraiser. I know a lot of people have had success with all different things because, again, it depends on your friends and family circle. If you're heavily into social media, there's tons of things that you can do on social media. We're kind of about average with that. We post once in a while on social media, so we were able to get those links out there, but it's not like we were posting them every day or different things like that. So again, just being specific to your situation and so on. And I think the biggest thing, and this was one of the things that I'll close with as we end our time together, and then I'll take questions. I think the thing that made the biggest difference for us is you kind of have to, I'm trying to think of the correct way to phrase it, you kind of have to almost get over the fact that at the end of the day, I think a lot of us think, okay, well, I'm asking for money. Like, I feel really bad that I'm asking for money. And, you're doing it in such a way that I think that this is why it's so great, because in the ones that we chose, we didn't just send out a letter and say, send money. We said, okay, we're going to go work for the day. Will you sponsor us? Or, we're doing this puzzle fundraiser. Would you like to sponsor a piece? So it gave people something more than just, hey, can you send in money? I think that as we've got responses from different friends and family, they were very... they thought that was a great idea. They felt really good about that situation. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is if you're going to put yourself out there and you are going to do any sort of community fundraising or anything like that, that's not the time to, take your family to Disney World or go on a big expensive vacation or some of those things, because, you just want to be cautious maybe what you're putting on social media and things like that, only because, you're sitting here saying, hey, we're trying desperately to raise, funds for this adoption because it's so expensive, but then at the same time, you're, it looks to other people like, okay, they want me to give of my money to help them, but are they sacrificing themselves? So you just want to be kind of aware of that situation too. And the last thing that I'll say as well in reference to all of that is don't give up. I mean, maybe you put in a whole bunch of grants and you don't hear back from them, or maybe you apply for a loan and you didn't get it right away, or maybe you try a fundraiser and it seemed like it flopped at first. I remember when we started the Both Hands fundraiser, it was kind of frustrating at first because I was like, wow, I really expected people to jump on the bandwagon for this, and it was a little bit of a slow start, and then all of a sudden it just took off. And now, that's just since November to that 10,248 was as of April. So that's not a super long time, and we weren't incredibly aggressive trying to collect that either. So it really has just been a great opportunity, and it's given us, the chance between all of the different things that we've done to actually raise almost $27,000 toward our adoption expenses. So it definitely was worth it, and I personally don't even feel like we did everything that we could have, because there are more grants and loans and things like that, but we feel like, we did everything that, we wanted to do for that time. And if we get a situation that presents itself where we need to raise more, obviously we know how we could go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you guys over at the agency, and hopefully if you have any questions, I can try my best to answer them. Okay, so you should be live.
Yep.
Can you guys
hear us?
Okay, perfect. So I know that was a lot of information, and I hope it made sense. Anything that needed any clarification? Okay. Any questions?
When people donate to your puzzle fundraiser or any other way, is there any way they can take that as a tax deduction?
Yes. When you go to that fundyouradoption.tv, you'll find that they'll give different suggestions for different websites and different things that you can use so that you can definitely get it as a tax deduction. The key to doing that is obviously it has to go through a certain organization in order for it to be considered a tax write-off. So that was one of the things that I think helped tremendously for our Both Hands project, is that all of the money that those people gave, was a tax write-off for them. So we actually had a lot of people right at the end of the year come in and do donations as well, just because of that. So yes, I would definitely recommend making sure that however you're collecting those funds, that you're setting up some sort of a web page, which they have a lot of free ones that are available when you go to fundyouradoption.tv, and definitely making sure that it's a tax write-off. Now, we did have some people that, and we've even had a couple of people now that I'm thinking about it, that for the puzzle fundraiser are like, my coworkers, they gave me $20, they want to buy a couple puzzle pieces. In that situation, you're not going to be able to use it as a tax write-off because they gave cash, but some people don't care, but at least having that opportunity, especially for people, it's a good incentive to give more.
I have clients that they both work full-time. Do you think this is something that they would be able to do? I mean, it seems like it might be very time-consuming.
It's really not time. It sounds, and that's why I feel so bad, because, when you sit down and actually do this, the majority of it is just in your prep work. So what I would say to someone, I run my own business from home. I have two kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my husband's a pastor, so we're constantly on the go with ministry stuff. And, it was just one of those things where I just kind of took time as I had it. So it does seem like it takes a ton of time, but if you just get yourself organized in the beginning, like I said, maybe take an hour, go check out that website, figure out where you want to put your time, and then especially if you're going to be applying for grants and so on, the first one is the hardest because you're answering all the questions kind of from scratch. But if you copy and paste your answers, it's basically the same questions and the same information that you need for everyone. So I think it's totally doable for anybody, and especially if you use one of the websites that's out there where people can just donate, then you're literally having people donate while you're sleeping. So it's not taking any time or effort from you at all. It just depends on kind of thinking outside the box, like what's going to work best for you if you want to do any actual fundraising versus grants. But it's totally doable.
Okay, thank you.
With the exception of the Christian grants, do you find that the grantors won't grant to same-sex couples?
What was the question? You cut out a little bit.
I'm sorry. With the exception of the Christian grants, I suspect, do you find that many of the grantors will not grant to same-sex couples?
You know what? Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of grants. I mean, and, some of the, like you said, maybe some of the Christian ones or ones that are specific to married situations and so on are specific in their criteria. But there's a lot of grants as you're going through there that will grant to single or to same-sex. It really just depends on each grant and their criteria. So in that situation, I would tell people to definitely go through and just look at the criteria and see what's out there, because there's a lot of different things that you can do in each situation. So again, just picking one specific to your situation is the best way that you're going to get them. And I think that that's why we had so much success, is we chose ones that were that would be very appealing to our specific situation. And so then we were able to go ahead and write in our story and share it, and it was an easier way to get approved. So if they can just find one that fits their situation and share their story, I definitely think that there's some out there for sure.
How about income level? If I know that you said that some of them had income requirements, if the couple makes, I don't know, maybe over $100,000, is it going to be difficult for them to get a grant?
That's, again, one of those things that just really depends on the grant. For the majority of them that we found, there wasn't necessarily an income maximum. My husband's a pastor, so that really didn't matter a whole lot for us. We don't make a ton of money, but one of the things that we did find, there's some of them that'll say if you make more than $100,000 or, $200,000, the biggest thing is not how much money you make, it's just demonstrating that there's a need in your situation. So, because let's be honest, you may make $100,000, but what are your expenses? How much is your car payment? How much is your house payment? So if you could legitimately prove that there's a need for you to be able to have the money to be able to fund your adoption, then they definitely consider, regardless.
Great.
Yeah, just making sure that you're demonstrating a need. And that's why everybody from those grants, because we did get personal, email or phone call from the ones that we did, and they said, sharing your story in the way that you did is what made such a big difference. Like being open and being transparent and, really, really not just answering the question, but letting them get to know who we were and why we were doing what we were doing. So the more information you can share, the better. Basically, it's like when you do a resume, what is it that's making you stand out from other people that are being considered?
Is it possible to get a grant post-placement?
Some of them, it just depends on their criteria. I don't know that there's that many that do post-placement. Some of them are very specific. It has to be before the child is placed. But I can't remember off the top of my head which ones, but I think there were a couple where you could go ahead and do it. That comes under where it talks about the type of what expenses are covered. It'll say like reimbursement, of your own expenses or agency fees. So again, just looking through that criteria. And these websites and organizations are super specific, and they'll tell you exactly, if it can be accepted before, after, during, and so on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we're all good for today. Thank you so much, Jen. It was very, very helpful.
Good, yeah, and I mean, just so you guys know, in closing, when we almost weren't going to do it because my husband said, you have so much on your plate. Are you sure you want to go through with, doing this and so on? And just, I'm a type A, just get it done type of person. But yet, when something seems overwhelming, it's easy to procrastinate and put it off. But the one thing I would encourage any family to do is at least give it your best shot, because worst case scenario, you tried. Best case scenario, you raise money for your adoption that now you don't have to come up with, and it really does help make it a lot more feasible. And honestly, if we could do it, I honestly think anybody could do it, because with a little bit of elbow grease, it's not as bad as it seems.
Sounds good. I have one last question now that I'm thinking about it. The fundraiser that you were talking about, the Both Hands fundraiser, is that thing, do families, I know you said you had to get approved to be able to do it. Do you have to have a religious affiliation to enter into that?
You know, with both hands, I think you do. I don't remember because I think we applied for that one at the same time as we did the Life Song one. But again, it's one of those things that you could easily go to their website, see how it's done, and tweak it to meet your specifications. I mean, because we had even talked about if we weren't able to go ahead and get approved for both hands, we still basically would do a similar thing. Maybe it's not a widow, or whatever, but maybe you're going to go work in your community and, just get together some sort of, draft up some sort of a simple letter explaining your story and why you're doing it and just ask people to sponsor you. Then set up one of those free websites where people can go ahead and donate and you get a tax write-off. It's going to be a similar situation with probably less work in the end. So it would be a very easy thing to set up yourself. It's just sometimes it's nice to have an organization overseeing it because you can get donations and things like that. But I'll tell you, when people in the community, I was shocked. We had people in the community that as soon as we said, hey, we're adopting, even if maybe their organization couldn't do something, there were people that personally said, hey, I'll do something. How do I donate? Like, there are people that maybe that's not a calling that they feel, they're going to adopt themselves. But most people I've found are favorable to adoption, or they know someone who's adopted, or they've adopted, or they've considered it themselves, and it gives people in the community a chance to help too.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, and I think that the biggest thing is if you can show that you're helping your local community, like maybe you're going to go clean up a park or you're going to go, do something that's somehow going to benefit the community, and obviously getting the permissions that you need to do those things, but then you can let people in the community know what you're doing. Public places will let you post it. Restaurant owners will let you tack it up. And people, your friends and your family know people you don't know or have access to. So you can have other people that share it. And it's amazing how the community will unite for common goals like that to bring them. God bless you guys. Have a great day.